Let's try and understand what the tan graph looks like. So when you create a circle of radius 1, we've already seen that the height of this triangle would be sine of x, the base would be cos of x. So tan is always the opposite divided by the adjacent. So really tan is the same, tan the angle is always the same as the height divided by the base. So this is a very important formula. Try to commit this to memory. It crops up all the time. And before I explain this, I need you to know that when you have a number, let's say 2 divided by a very, very, very small number, it becomes the whole thing will then become a very, very, very big number. Because if you look at the number line, 0, 1, from 0 to 1, if you look at 1 over 1000, cut this up into 1000 equal pieces. 1000th is right here. So if you have a number, let's say 2 divided by this really small number, 1 over 1000. So my point here is that if you have a number and then you divide it by a very, very small number, overall the overall number would be very, very big. Because look, this here is like 2 divided by this number here, 1 divided by 1000, and you keep this the same, and then you times the reciprocal of the second, which is the reciprocal of this is 1000 over 1, which is 1000, times 2, it becomes a very, very big number. So just bear this in mind. When you have a number divided by a very, very small number, the overall answer would be very, very, very big. Just bear that in mind. Okay, let's try and understand what the tan graph looks like. Okay, for this tan graph, you've got to imagine a unit circle, and this dot here is moving around. It starts here and then it moves around like this. So tan is always the height divided by the across. So when you're here at 0, at an angle 0, what is the height? The height, the up and down, the height would be 0 divided by the across. The across here is 1 because it's a circle of radius 1. So tan of 0 would be the height divided by the across. The height is 0. The across here is 1. So the answer would be 0. 0 divided by 1 is allowed, and it's actually the number 0, so it's going to be right here. So let's just move our dot around like this. As it moves around, by the time it gets to 90 degrees, which is right here, by the time 90 degrees is right here, by the time it gets to 90 degrees, tan would be the height divided by the across. The height would be 1, the across would be 0, because it's directly above the origin. There is no across. There is no width of the triangle. So you're dividing by 0. But the thing is, in maths, you're not allowed to divide by 0. The minute you encounter divide by 0, you've got to stop what you're doing. So dead on 90, something breaks. Dead on 90, it breaks down. That's why you get a what's called a vertical asymptote. But don't worry about that at the moment. Just to remember that dead on 90. There is no number dead on 90. So dead on 90, we know it breaks down. So let's imagine our dot moving around just before it gets to 90. So hang on. So imagine our dot moving around, starts here and then it moves around. We know that dead on 90 it breaks down, but imagine it being a microscopic amount before 90 degrees. So right here. So what is tan is going to be the height. So remember, just before 90 degrees, which is right there, just before 90 degrees, tan would be the height divided by the across. The height would be very, very close to 1 because the highest point is 1. So just to the right would be, I don't know, let's just imagine it to be 0.9999. And then you divide it by the across. What's the across? It's going to be a very small width. Because if you're over here, you can see that is a big width. If you're over here, it's going to be a medium width. But if you're just before 90, it's going to be a very, very small number. The width would be very, very small. Now, this thing here, because you've got a number divided by a very, very small number, the overall answer would be very, very big. So just before 90, it will jump all the way off the screen, all the way up here. It's going to be a very, very big number. Okay, so we know it passes through here. We know it passes through here. Now dead on 90, it breaks down. Let's look what happens when it passes 90. So when it passes 90, hang on, let me clean this up. When it passes 90, 90 is right here. When it passes 90, it would be the height divided by the width, because that's what tan is. Well, what is the height? The height is just below 1. So let's just imagine it to be 0.99999. And then what's the width? The width would be very, very small, but it's on the negative side, because this is 1, this is negative 1. You can see that this would be, I don't know, let's just imagine it to be negative 0.00003. So this thing here would be negative 0. A very, very small number. Let's just imagine it's 3. So now I can move the negative up here. I can move the negative out here. So what is this number? This number here would be, well, you've got a number divided by very, very small. So the overall answer would be very, very big, but negative big. So in your mind, picture it to be, I don't know, let's say negative 8,000. It's a very, very, it's a big number with a negative. So what that means is, dead on 90, it breaks down. Before 90, it's going to jump up here. But past 90, just past 90, it's going to be very, very negative big. So it jumps all the way down here on the graph. So it jumps, hang on. So it jumps all the way down here. So we know our graph will be here. It must cross here. It must cross here. Dead on 90, it breaks down. So there's a gap down 90. But then just past 90, it will be a very, very negative big number. So just know that the graph passed through here. So let's continue on our journey with our dot. So hang on. So we've got a unit circle. So dead on 90, it breaks down. We've just passed 90. Let's continue in the journey. So by the time it gets to 180, which is here, what is the height? Because tan is always the height divided by the cross. The height here would be 0. There is no height when it gets to 180. So it would be 0 divided by, what's the across? It will be negative 1, because this is 1, this is negative 1, negative 1. 0 divided by negative 1 would be 0. So it must pass through here. So just know that it passes through, the graph will look like this. It passes through here, 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 and here. I will continue in the next video, okay?